Hey everybody, I hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Whiskey Wanders. And this time around, we are back in the City of Lights, that is the amazing, beautiful city of Paris, where the selection of whiskey is good and the competition for it is maybe slightly less crazy than it is here in the States. And we will see. As a result, there are some rare unicorn bottles sitting on the shelf, basically at MSRP, that would have gone so fast here in the United States that they probably actually would have never even hit the shelf. Somebody would have swiped them before they even got down there. Things like the Weller 12 for under $50, which is laughable, right? But also some very extraordinarily interesting Japanese whiskeys that are less hyped but equally difficult to get for those who enjoy whiskey from that part of the world. Now, before we get to the Wander, if you like these videos, and really if you like all our videos, whether it is the Wander or the hauls or the reviews, the unbottlings, the unboxings, and really all the amazing stuff that we got cooking up for you, don't forget to like and subscribe because it really does help the channel to grow, and we are so thankful for that, and we are growing for sure, so thank you. But also because you get updates when our newest long videos come out, when our newest short videos come out, and when our other newest content somewhere in between comes out. All right, now let's get down to the video. Now, while we were waiting for the WandaVision to get fired up, and it might take a little bit longer because it looks like the Parisians are on strike again. But let's get warmed up here, and I think today I'm going to be enjoying one of these kind of best prices for the palate bourbons that you can find out there. I'm going to be enjoying some of this Eagle Rare 10. Ooh, yeah. Let me get a glass here. See if we can get it distributed equally on both sides and get a pop. Worst. Ooh. And to whiskey. Because, let's face it, you can never really drink too much of it. You can only just drink it too fast. Cheers. That Eagle is very rare. Not the most rare. How rare? Not that rare. Rare. All right, so first up for today is a whiskey that is always exciting to see in the wild, on the shelf, not under the glass, not behind the counter, and you don't have to have a secret password to get to see it. But it is here in Paris, just another bourbon, another kind of everyday bourbon, perhaps as they would describe it, piquant. But still, for us, it was a real pleasure to see, which is going to be this Weller 12 on the shelf. And in fact, I have one from the last time we were in Paris, and turns out the only place I actually end up getting Weller 12 is from from Paris. And you can see this one has the 500 or 700 milliliters that comes with the Shenzhen zone. Now, the Weller 12, I would say, is the most difficult of the standard lines of Buffalo Trace. Maybe not in comparison to CYPB. CYPB, that was pretty rough, and still need to check that one off. Precisely because, though, of its quality and because of the age statement and for the price when you can get it at MSRP. Now, of course, having an age statement on it means they can only make so much of it because you can't make 12 years go any faster, thankfully. And also 12 years ago, they didn't know there was going to be so much demand. So with a healthy mix of economic supply and demand and presto changeo all put together, you know, now you find the Weller 12 for $300 stateside. But the Weller 12 is a whiskey that seems like it is from a time when the bourbon drinking public was more concerned about having kind of a well-balanced, traditional flavored whiskey. They were not ABV driven like today and like myself. And it really shows that maybe an ABV centric focus for whiskey shouldn't be the only way to appreciate or to design whiskey. Like art, you know, there are different genres. There's cubism and postmodernism and classical and Bauhaus. And each of those can be appreciated in their own right within the understanding of the context of the goals of the art that was made at the time. Same goes for this Weller 12. It's just a whiskey from another time with an alternate objective that becomes apparent with every single sip. Weller is truly what I would call a trad bourbon. It is aged in American oak barrels. It has a lineage that goes back to the heyday of bourbon, and truthfully and honestly, is quite good. The price that we see here at the Paris Whiskey Monger is at an unheard of 39.90 euros. I think that's how you say it, which roughly comes out to $43.69 here stateside in greenbacks. And that's about at MSRP. I mean, if you throw in a couple extra percentage points, a couple extra dollars for import costs, etc., but it's still infinitely better than what you're going to find it here at your corner liquor store if you can find it. And surprisingly, this is the exact same price that we saw it at when we picked this one up back in 2022 when we were there before. Now, of course, some of the downsides of the Weller 12 is, one, buying it in Paris, is that you're in the Shenzhen zone, which also means that you miss out on 50 milliliters, as it is 700 milliliters of the divine liquid. The ABV on the Weller 12 is at 45% ABV, which again is not bad, but it's not gonna like set anyone's mouth on fire. But again, it speaks to the period of time when whiskey was developed. And I think that it is truly at the right ABV to balance out kind of the age and the more mellow, like traditional flavor palettes that you get with the Weller 12. Because when you try some of the other Wellers, maybe something like the Full Proof or maybe even the Antique 107, I think some of those nuances actually do end up getting lost because the ABV is a little over ABV. Now, the tasting notes that I can find for the Weller 12, including mine, are that the Weller 12 is like a warm bourbon hug. It has the traditional bourbon flavors like leather, vanilla, pecan pie filling, sweetness, as well as oak with no ABV bite. The review scores that I could find on the Weller 12 are exceedingly good, and I think with good reason, with the caveat that the price will probably have a big effect on one's appraisal of it, because at $46 here, like we see, I mean, that is outstanding. It's an outstanding whiskey for $46, but at $300, I mean, that could put a pretty heavy damper on one's opinion. That being said, it did get 90 out of 100 points on average, including my points, and I think that is appropriate. So overall, looking back, we should have bought this one. We definitely should have bought this one. But you know, the price was right. Okay, the price was right. But the reason why we didn't buy this one is because we still had the Whisky Live Paris event to go see, and we needed to make sure that we had space in the luggage for whatever treasures we found there. Check it out on I'll put a link up there for that one. But at this price and seeing it on the shelf and readily available, should have picked it up. Sad. It was sad that we didn't buy this one, but it was a pass, but it was definitely be a buy if it didn't have those extenuating circumstances. Now, next up in this wander is we have a bit of an oddity that you don't see a lot in the United States, and maybe there's laws against it. Maybe that's why there isn't. But here in Paris, it appears that specific whiskey distributors are able to kind of, I guess, how you call like a third party produce, maybe even just kind of like cut down big bottles into smaller bottles, into sample sets, if you will. And maybe like something you would get at an advent calendar or on an airplane or a minibar, except for this whiskeys are ones that you are not going to find in those places. In this case specifically, we see a set of Japanese whiskeys that is composed of mini 15 milliliter bottles of the Ichiro's Malt 15 and the Nikka Iochi 20-year-old single malt and the Kurosawa Asama single malt. Man, this is another one. This is another one we should have bought. Like I guess we didn't fully research it at the time, but dude, this was one we should have bought. Now, if you are familiar with Japanese whiskey, Nikka may be one that you are quite familiar with, especially because Nikka has a strong focus on the U.S. market with their Nikka coffee grain and their Nikka coffee malt whiskeys, which are both very good, and for me were the entry into quote-unquote Japanese whiskeys. So I always have a soft spot in my heart for them. But maybe you weren't as familiar with the other ones. So the kind of small boutique ones like the Kurosawa Asama and the Ichiro, like they are kind of artisan heavy hitters at the top tier of the Japanese kind of whiskey tree. I would say if we had to be like, if we had to find analogs for them, I'd probably put them maybe like an Elmer T. Lee or an Elijah Craig 20, something like that. Maybe even one of like the less hyped BTACs. I don't know, say the Sazerac. But here we see in Paris, they have broke down the full bottles like the Kurosawa Asama, that itself as a bottle standalone, $3,000 to $4,000, but they broke them down into smaller bottles into something that is slightly more affordable. Now, real quick, let's recap these three different bottles that are in there. There's first the Ichiro malt, which is obviously from Japan. It is distilled from Ichiro, and it is known for making some pretty amazing modern blends of whiskeys, world whiskeys, and rather apropos of the Ichiro Paris edition that we got from this trip when we did go to Whiskey Live in Paris. Check that out on our other video. But moreover, Ichiro, from the master distiller Ichiro Akudo, is the evolution of the progenitor of the whiskey family who made the Hanyo whiskey. You know, something that looks like the playing card whiskeys, and I'll put some up here, that are stupid expensive, stupid rare, and, you know, next to impossible to get for a reasonable price. But Ichiro had inherited these whiskeys from his grandfather, who had shut down their Hanyo distillery in the 80s, but he has continued to age them and incorporate them as blends back into his current whiskey offerings. But in this case, the Ichiro's Malt 15 is made from some of those last bottles from Hanyo. Now, on the flip side, there is another indie brand, the Kurosawa Asama, which is a similar story from the closed down and hard to get Japanese distiller that is best known for their geisha whiskey bottles, which, like the playing cards, are the last of the generation of that whiskey makers and are commanding, extinct whiskey prices. And then the last, of course, is the Nika, but with a line that had previously been discontinued during the pandemic, and really along with all the age statements, and now is only coming back with the Yoshi 10, but in this case was the Yoshi 20. Here we see the full set at the boutique is 269 euros, which is about $300 as today's prices. And yes, of course, that is real money, but it would be such a great way to have some of the last reserves of these Japanese legendary whiskeys for quote unquote a reasonable price. Kind of like Orphan Barrel, but less Diageo-y. And even if we did get this, I don't even think we would ever drink it. I think it'd be something that we would save that we had. And in fact, it's kind of like, it's exactly like the Pappy set that we picked up while we were there over the last Christmas or something like that. So, they put together these kind of cool sets, and the Pappy one, obviously not open, and I don't think I'll ever open it, but they do the Japanese version of it, and it was just super cool to see. All right, so that's it for today's Whiskey Wander, part 1, part in Paris Saint-Germain, not the soccer team, but the region. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and all of our videos, whether it is these wanders or the hauls or the reviews or the unbottlings, the unboxings, and really all the amazing stuff that we have cooking up for you, because we have a lot. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really does help the channel grow, and we are so thankful for that, and we're growing, so thank you. But also because you'll get updates when our newest longs, our newest shorts, and our newest whatever videos come out. Now, just remember, if you do find a whiskey that you love, wherever you are, you happen to be in the world, just buy it. Because if you don't, somebody else surely will, and it might even be me. And you'll be kicking yourself later. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week. I'm out, and adios.